Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
On this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, an update on the latest congressional action from Washington, D.C. Plus, cowboys hard at work donating beef to those in need right here in Denver, Colorado.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with host Kevin Oxner.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kevin Oxner. Thanks for joining us. Topping this week's cattle industry news, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association is working hard to push important legislation through the U.S. Senate. Recently, the House of Representatives passed 3 amendments blocking funding needed by the Environmental Protection Agency to regulate dust, the total maximum daily load rule for the Chesapeake Bay, and the nutrient criteria rule for Florida. NCBA says these are wins for cattlemen and is looking to the Senate to continue to stand up for the rights of today's rural Americans. So what's next on the Hill in Washington, D.C.? We have more in this week's Cattlemen's Capital Concerns. And joining me in the studio is Colin Woodall, Vice President of Government Affairs for National Cattlemen's Beef Association. Thanks for coming back to the show.
Always good to be here, Kevin.
Well, tell us, you have some good news in D.C. Tell us about the recent wins relative to the environmental issues.
We've got some fantastic news. Just last week, the House of Representatives was working on their continuing resolution, and that is the function of getting the budget approved for the U.S. government, making sure that they get paid. They're a little behind. A lot of that is because of what happened with the elections and the changes. But what we have was a real effort to try to cut the budget, cut federal spending. That is something that the Republicans came in as part of their platform, and they really wanted to make that happen. And they did last week. Now, the reason why it was good for the cattle business is we were able to latch on and really get a couple amendments on there that focused on the environment, specifically what EPA is doing. We've talked a lot in the past about EPA's dust rule, what they're doing in regards to trying to manage and restrict nutrients in the Chesapeake Bay and also in the waters off the Florida coast. Well, we had 3 members of Congress who decided to do defunding clauses in this continuing resolution. What that means is they said, hey, look, we're going to take away the money from EPA, so you can't work on these issues. Well, of course, we're very supportive of that, because when you look at taking that money away, that means EPA is going to have to stop. We had a great turnout from both the Republicans and the Democrats. It was a bipartisan win, and all 3 of those passed. So right now, our focus is really trying to make sure that we get the Senate this week to take up this bill and get those 3 particular amendments passed in this final package. And if we can do that, get it signed by the president, then we will have dealt a pretty significant blow to EPA, because as we know, they continue to come after us time and time again on a whole host of issues. And if we can take that funding away and stop them cold, it'll really benefit us.
Well, that's quite an accomplishment, and I appreciate all the work you and your staff have been doing. Talk to us about GIPSA. You know, the issue seems to have been quiet here lately. What is the latest update on that?
You know, it has been quiet, and the reason why is because USDA and GIPSA are really going through all of the comments that were submitted. The Secretary made his commitment to review these for all the content concerns that are out there. You know, NCBA submitted comments. A lot of our individual members submitted comments. One thing that the Secretary did promise us is that he would do a full legal review and policy review of the concerns that have been brought up in these comments. And also he would have the USDA chief economist do a cost-benefit analysis. Now, we think that's very good because they didn't do an economic analysis on the original rule. And I think once they really look at the individual economics and how this rule is going to impact the industry, they'll see, from our point of view, why we have been against the GIPSA rule. So right now, we probably expect another 6 months or so for comment review. I mean, over 60,000 comments were submitted. It takes a long time to get through those. Once that's done, they will really start looking at what the final rule will become. So we may see a final rule sometime late this fall, and at that point in time, we'll be able to take our next steps. But right now, the challenge really is making sure that this stays in the spotlight, because even though they're in the comment review, it's still an extremely important issue. We need to make sure that all producers know what's going on, that Congress knows what's going on, and of course that the Secretary knows just how we feel about it.
International trade continues to be a bright spot for the beef industry. Tell us what your projections are relative to this Korean Free Trade Agreement. What can we expect there?
You know, we're really pretty excited about what's going to happen with the Korean Free Trade Agreement. The agreement between the two countries is finally done. All we're waiting for is the president to send it up to Congress. The clock is ticking on us here because the Australians want to do a free trade agreement with the Koreans as badly as we do. And the good thing about this is right now we face about a 40% tariff on our beef going into South Korea. If this agreement is passed, that 40% tariff is phased out over the course of 15 years. If Australia gets in there before us, they're going to have 15 years worth of tariff advantage over our product. That's why it's so important that we get this thing passed. There's been a lot of talk that beef is still an issue, but we have to really step back and look at what the true issue is. There's two different agreements. There's the free trade agreement, and then there's the beef agreement that we already have. And the beef agreement that's on paper, that's been signed by both governments, is based on the OIE standard, which is the World Organization for Animal Health. It's the gold standard, and it's what we want. So we're telling folks on Capitol Hill, the beef situation is good. It's only going to get better if we get this free trade agreement passed, so let's get it done. Let's get it done quick. The goal is to try to get it done by July.
And one last question, I guess. What are some of your overall priorities as you think about the year 2011?
Trade really is our top priority because it's not just about South Korea. It's about the Colombian and Panama free trade agreements. It's also about getting more access into Japan and getting reopened access into China, a market that we've been out since December 23rd, 2003. Outside of that, it really goes back to the environmental issues. Not only are we working on it here on the appropriations and budget process, but we're also looking at oversight of EPA. That's getting Congress to actually bring the administrator up to Capitol Hill and talk about things like this dust provision, where it's going and what she's doing, the administrator, and why or if it is based on sound science. And then we're also going to spend a lot of time, like I say, on GIPSA, and more importantly, just educating all these new members of Congress on who NCBA is, who this industry is, and what we do to feed the world.
Well, you've got your work cut out for you. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Kevin.
Support the work of Colin and his staff in Washington, D.C. Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association today. Call us at 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit us at beefusa.org. Giving back. It's an important part of any community. And recently, a group of cattlemen had the chance to donate beef to those in need in Denver. Reporter Brian Baxter has more.
On a bitter cold day kicking off the 2011 Cattle Industry Convention, cattle producers through NCBA joined in the effort to fight hunger with the largest ever donation of beef to the food bank of the Rockies. Together, JBS, NCBA, and cattle producers from across the country donated and delivered 16,000 pounds of beef roast and tenderloins to the food bank.
We're very happy to be able to make the donation. We're happy to be in the situation where we can. We think it's a great opportunity for JBS to do something like this. It's a great business, great company down here, and a great place to do it.
It might sound simplistic, but beef is like gold to food banks and more importantly to people that are going to be getting food from food banks. I mean, if you think of people that are accessing emergency food pantries, they're accessing them because they don't have enough money to buy food for themselves or their families on a regular basis. And when they do have a chance to buy food, more often than not, they're buying whatever can fill the bellies of their kids with the dollars they have. So to give them beef, we know the protein, we know the nutrients in beef, we know that it's good for us, we know it's good for kids. For them to be able to access that product free from our pantries, can't tell you how much that means for them.
Now there's 50 million Americans that are food insecure even today, and it's really important that we assist our local as well as national associations, and cattlemen are always really good at helping out, but this is a wonderful opportunity for us to get involved in a very big donation that can make a difference to an awful lot of people.
Beef's high nutrient value in improving diets, combined with a brutal winter and a rise in people in need, meant this donation of beef made during the Cattle Industry Convention came at just the right time.
The heating bills are going up at home, right, when it's this cold, and folks are going to be using the dollars that they have, the disposable dollars they have, to pay that heat bill that's coming in. So, again, that's less dollars they're going to have to buy groceries for themselves or their families.
I think it's a great thing. It's a great opportunity, and there's a lot of people that need good beef on their table, and it's a great opportunity for everybody involved.
Demand continues to increase at levels that we've never seen before, not only at Food Bank of the Rockies, but food banks across America. So any and all donations that help us meet that demand are very, very welcome. And again, I can't emphasize enough to getting fresh beef products for our clients. It's just a wonderful thing.
Cattle producers and employees from JBS joined together in helping to unload the beef, and the donation brought media attention to the issue of food insecurity and the value of beef in the diet. But this donation wasn't about recognition. Helping where help is needed is a natural reaction from cattlemen.
Cattle producers, for the most part, are from small towns, and in small towns we basically learn to help each other out. So I think that this is the perfect match for us, for cattle producers, and in this opportunity JBS has made it available for us to help a larger number of people. Each individual cattle producer can donate a little bit in their local community, but we can't always donate in a national way, and this is a perfect opportunity for us to do that.
They take care of their neighbors. They take care of people that are a little less fortunate. So I think it's very emblematic of the creed of the farmer and the rancher, and the cattlemen and the Cattlemen's Association. They take care of people that need to be taken care of.
Every day, the Food Bank of the Rockies provides enough food for 76,000 meals for people in need throughout the state of Colorado. In Denver, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Thank you to our volunteers and to JBS USA for donating the beef to this worthy cause. Ahead on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Per animal that has pink eye, we can see lost production of 40 to 60 pounds.
We head to Florida to learn more about how to prevent pink eye problems in your herd. Plus, we get to know more about new NCBA Vice President Scott George. We'll be right back.
You're watching NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen on RFD TV.
You can tell a lot about a cattleman by his cattle. Purina AccuRation feed with intake modifying technology gives cattle that uniform muscular look. It maximizes forage utilization and controls intake based on forage quality and cattle needs. It reduces labor, saves time, and helps cattle perform to their highest genetic potential, boosting your net return. Available in AccuRation Cattle Limiter, Super Lick, Super Block, and Impact Starter. AccuRation feeds from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
Like you, Boehringer Ingelheim Vetmedica Incorporated knows the territory. With over 30 years' experience, you can rest assured that when you work with us, we work for you. We have an extensive line of vaccines and parasite control products for beef cattle and offer professional support in the field. We're continually bringing you innovative animal health solutions to help you build the most profitable beef operation possible. Boehringer Ingelheim. When it comes to your herd, we've got your back.
Hi, I'm Kevin Ochsner, host of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen and Colorado Rancher. Join me each week as the National Cattlemen's Beef Association brings you the latest updates in industry information and market news. Plus, each week we provide important educational information and features on cattlemen from across the country just like you. And we can't forget our favorite cowboy poet, Baxter Black. Join me for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, debuting Tuesday nights at 8:30 Eastern, right here on RFD TV.
Education, networking, opportunity, and fun. That's what you'll find at the 2012 Cattle Industry Annual Convention and NCBA Trade Show in Nashville, Tennessee. Get your ticket to ride with your fellow cattlemen and women in the country music capital of the world. You'll find cutting-edge education, top-of-the-line technology, and entertainment that can't be beat. Don't miss your ticket to ride to the Cattle Industry Annual Convention and Trade Show in Nashville, Tennessee, February 1st through the 4th, 2012. For more information, visit beefusa.org.
Each year, pink eye losses cost the U.S. cattle industry $150 to $200 million. Pink eye is a disease every cattleman can recognize and can avoid. Reporter Matt Fleck has more from Central Florida.
Each year, pink eye losses cost the U.S. cattle industry $150 to $200 million. Pink eye is a disease every cattleman can recognize and every cattleman wants to avoid in their animals.
Well, if we're looking at Moraxella bovis, we look at pink eye, we can suffer a lot of economic losses from it. And one of the most easy ways people see this and manifest it is lost weight gain. And per animal that has pink eye, we can see lost production of 40 to 60 pounds per animal. Now the tough thing is a lot of people out there, they'll see pink eye and one of the things they'll see is damage to the eye. And when they see that eye damage, if they go to sell that animal, that can cost them upwards of $11.75 per hundredweight, when they go to sell it. When we look at lost production to pink eye, we know we got the average daily gain of 40 to 60 pounds per head per animal, the damaged eyes. What that all equates to is about $100 per head you can look at, and that's been documented in studies.
Dr. Bennett Flanders says when the right environmental conditions come together with large numbers of flies, the rate of pink eye can be quite high.
Our biggest challenge here recently, the last year or two, has been pink eye. We've had, I'm a veterinarian and I've been was in practice for 35 or 40 years, and I had the worst pink eye I've ever seen in my life right here.
Pink eye in cattle starts with the trauma to the cornea of the eye caused by dust, pollen, ultraviolet light, or flies. Once the cornea has been irritated, Moraxilla bovis, the primary bacteria cause of cattle pink eye, attaches to the eye.
So when we think of Moraxilla bovis organism, how it attaches to the eye, just take a look at your hand and think of your fingers as that organism and your hand. And when it comes down on the eye, it attaches on the surface of the eye with those fingers. So it'll attach there, and you'll have multiple organisms like that attaching. And when those organisms attach, we get more irritation of the eye. We have the Moraxilla bovis organism there, and we start seeing the clinical signs of pink eye.
Stewart says if left unchecked, pink eye can develop rapidly to a severe level that threatens the animal's eye.
Okay. So if we're looking at an animal that has pink eye, we can go through some various stages, the infectious process. First thing you'll notice is an increase in the tearing of the eye. And you're going to notice that by some staining coming down the medial canthus or the corner of the eye on the inside. And it'll come down their face, and you'll see a nice wet area. It might be a little dirty looking and things like that, but excessive tearing there. Then we'll get some redness in the eye, conjunctivitis with that, we'll see. Then that can just spread. We can start seeing maybe right around the cornea area a little bit of an ulceration, a little integrity break of the cornea there. It can get white, and then we can start seeing it spread. And people will worry when they start seeing it like that, they worry about losing that eye, losing that. And then you can see scarring can be one of the end resolutions, that we have a scar in that eye. And as we said, that's when, we don't want to lose the eye. Sometimes the scarring will heal up and they'll be fine. But as we talked with those purebred animals, if we get a permanent scar or a blue eye, as some folks will say, or a white eye, you've lost, that value of that animal.
We'll return with more details from Central Florida ahead.
Preventing cattle pink eye is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Vaccinate your animals with Piligard Pink Eye TriView to provide pink eye fighting antibodies in the tears that bathe the eye. Broad spectrum protection that cross-reacts with 103 different strains of pink eye causing bacteria. 2. Stop the flies that spread pink eye bacteria throughout the herd. Apply double barrel VP ear tags and Ultra Boss Poron for up to 5 months of face fly and horn fly control. 3. Manage the environment to reduce damage to the animal's eye from seed heads, pollen, and UV light, irritants that increase the risk of pink eye infection. With the right tools, preventing pink eye is as easy as 1, 2, 3.
I'm Kevin Oxner, host of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Check us out at cattlementocattlemen.org or on Facebook and Twitter.
You like the John Deere 568 round baler for everything it has. Now, you like it even more for what it doesn't. Get rid of the twine tie system and run a 568 with nothing but net. That's right, nothing but easy loading, fast wrapping, bale protecting, cover edge net wrap. Put one to work in your field. See your John Deere dealer today.
I'm Steve Teagarden with Intervet Shearing Plow Animal Health. I'm with Dr. Norm Stewart with our Technical Services Department. Dr. Stewart, could you help producers understand what a pink eye prevention protocol involves and how they can use one in their herd?
Sure, Steve. When we look at pink eye prevention protocol, we go back to our three-legged stool. We want to cover all three legs of it. The first leg of that's going to be our vaccination program. We want to use broad spectrum vaccines. So we have a product like Piligard Pink Eye TriView. It can be used in animals 4 weeks of age or older. Going to cross-react against 103 different strains of Moraxilla bovis that cause pink eye. So that's the first thing we want to do, good sound vaccination program. Next thing, tag and pour. So we want to put an insecticide air tag in those animals. It's going to control face flies, horn flies. Double barrel BP will give us up to 5 months horn fly and face fly control. Then we want to use a pour-on insecticide, long-acting. Ultra Boss does the job right there very well for us. So those components right there, when we look at that, that covers our vaccination, our tag and pour. The last leg of that stool, we look at the environmental control. We want to keep those pastures clipped so we don't have the seed heads irritating the eyes or the grasses, damaging the cornea where the Moraxella bovis can get in there and attach.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. If you have questions, please contact your local veterinarian, animal health provider, or your local Intervet Shearing Plow animal health representative.
Welcome back. Let's return to reporter Matt Fleck in Florida, who's learning more about managing a costly cattle disease.
Every cattleman can recognize the disease once it develops. What cattlemen really want to know is how to prevent pink eye. Dr. Stewart says preventing pink eye requires a three-pronged approach.
When we're looking to prevent pink eye, we have to take an approach of a three-legged stool. And what we're looking at, each one of those legs is vital. Just like if you're sitting on a stool, you don't want one of them weak because the stool can collapse. So we think of a pink eye program, think of that three-legged stool. The first leg we look at is prevention. And when we're looking at prevention, we're talking about, let's use a broad-based, broad-spectrum vaccine that's going to give us protection against multiple strains of Moraxella bovis. Because that Moraxella bovis organism is the one we got to prevent.
Stewart says timing of a vaccination program is as important as the vaccine itself.
Pink eye is hard to treat, so we really want to prevent the problem. And one of the first things we need to do is get those animals vaccinated. And when we vaccinate them, we want to get them vaccinated 3 to 6 weeks prior to the onset of the pink eye season. As I tell folks, let's look out 6 weeks, because most of these products that we have, it's going to take a good 6 weeks, 3 to 6 weeks to build a good, strong immune response to that vaccine.
Unlike other vaccines, which produce circulating antibodies in the bloodstream, Stewart says pink eye vaccines produce antibodies that bathe the surface of the eye to fight the infection where it starts.
When we look at our pink eye vaccine, we vaccinate that animal, like we said, 3 to 6 weeks before the onset of pink eye season. We build up a good immune response in that animal. How that animal's immune system combats the pink eye or the Moraxella bovis organism is they shed tears, and they shed in those tears, we have antibodies in those tears, and they bathe and they coat the eye. And there are antibodies in those tears that combat that Moraxella bovis organism and keep it from attaching to the eye. And that's the key with that vaccine. If we've got those tears in the eyes with those antibodies, we combat that organism and we minimize economic damages due to pink eye.
While vaccination with a broad-spectrum vaccine is important, Stewart says fly control is equally critical in preventing pink eye.
The second leg of that stool is fly control, and that's critical also because the flies are the ones that spread that Moraxella bovis organism. And those face flies can go from animal to animal transmitting that bacteria. So we got to have good fly control, and that starts, be it in the cow, be it in the calf, but every animal on the place. We want to use insecticide ear tags that are effective against face flies. You might as well get one that's got effect against horn flies, because horn flies are also a problem. But we want to put one tag in each ear of these animals, so 2 tags per head. And we want to use a pour-on, and pour-on insecticide also, same time we put the ear tags in. So a good way to think of it for the fly control is a tag and pour program.
While both horn flies and face flies can cause pink eye, face flies can rapidly spread the disease from animal to animal in a herd.
So we talk about that face fly, and we know that it transmits that Moraxella bovis organism to one animal. And we've used that example today of how, what happens, the progression of the disease. But keep in mind, that face fly can land on one animal, take that Moraxella bovis organism to another animal, and we see that in herds all the time. So flies, we got a lot of them out there. And that's why we want to control them, because they're the vector. They're the ones that spreads that organism from animal to animal. So they land on the face, around the eye. As they're landing, they're transmitting that organism. If you got cattle that got fence line contact with a neighbor, you got herds on both sides or close to you, we can get face flies going from one herd to another.
Dr. Stewart says the environment can also contribute to the incidence of pink eye.
The other part of that three-legged stool is the environmental control. And when we're looking at that, what we're looking at is we got pastures that could be long, high. We want to clip them because we don't want grasses, weeds, etc. like that scratching that cornea of the eye and setting up the animal for the infection. Because if we damage the integrity of the eye, that Moraxella bovis organism can really get in there and take effect when those flies land. ultraviolet light, things like that. You know, we can't put sunglasses on them, but we can sure create shades for them. Right. Dust, things like that, pollen, realize that can activate it. So when we look at pink eye, we look at that three-prong approach. We want to have a good vaccine that's going to give us good broad-based protection. We want to have good fly control, so we want to use a tag and pour. And we want to have good environmental control to control pollens, dust, high grasses, things like that.
Dr. Stewart sums up the three-pronged approach of a complete pink eye prevention protocol.
So if I'm looking and I have somebody contact me and they say, what's a good pink eye program? The first thing I'm going to tell them is we got to vaccinate. So get that good broad spectrum vaccine into that animal 3 to 6 weeks before the onset of pink eye. Tag and pour. I want insecticide ear tags that are effective against face flies. I want a good long-acting pour-on insecticide on the animal. And I want to be aware of the environmental control. Clip the pastures. Keep in mind if you might have to put up shades, things like that. But keep in mind the impact the environment can have. That should minimize any losses due to pink eye.
For Dr. Flanders, a pink eye prevention program involving vaccination, tag and pour fly control, and environmental management is producing positive results.
But we seem to be getting ahead of it now.
Reporting from Lakeland, Florida, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Now, if you have questions about preventing pink eye in your herd, please visit stopcattlepinkeye.com. And we'll be right back.
Join the folks at Whitestone Farm in Aldie, Virginia for their annual Angus Bull Sale, Saturday, March 26th. This is the place for the finest in premium Angus genetics, offering 90 yearling Angus bulls and 30 open Angus heifers. And Whitestone bulls are pasture performance tested.
We'd like to think that the quality that we have here is a culmination of 23 years of genetics that we put together that backs these bulls out of some of the greatest cows in the breed.
Beautiful Whitestone Farm is located just 20 miles west of Dulles Airport in Aldie, Virginia, and it's well worth the trip. This is where you'll find Angus genetics that pay. And with the right disposition, quality carcass traits, and more, Whitestone Angus bulls will work for you.
Our bulls are 100% guaranteed. And here at Whitestone, we really pride ourselves in the customer service that we give our customers.
To find out more and request a sale book, call 703-327-4863 or visit the website whitestonefarm.com. Whitestone bulls don't cost, they pay. Comprehensive, practical, powerful. Now's the time to put the power of DNA to work in your herd with the comprehensive Identity Profile. The inside information from Identity can help you make more confident replacement heifer and herd sire selection decisions, add marketability to your feeder cattle, make faster genetic progress, and more. The best time to get started is when you're already working cattle, during branding, weaning, or bull soundness exams. Get started today. Visit iGenity.com or call 1-877-IGENITY to put the power of DNA to work in your herd.
Welcome back. Head to the mountains of northwest Wyoming and you might expect to see cattle and cowboys. But let's meet a beef industry leader whose family operation may surprise you just a bit. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter brings us a day in the life of Wyoming dairy producer Scott George.
The mountains and irrigated farmland of the Bighorn Basin near Cody, Wyoming have been the lifelong home of Scott George, whose parents homesteaded this land starting in 1947.
After they'd been here 8 years, they just were starving to death. They were hardly making a living. And the lenders told them, you need to do something to make more money. And so they started milking some cows. And that was the beginning of our dairy business. They started milking cows in 1954. Actually, it was only 7 years then since they got here. But they started milking cows, and we've grown the dairy since that time.
Today, Scott and two of his brothers lead the dairy farm with a crew that includes family members and employees. On a typical morning, you might find Scott making sure the baby calves get fed or out checking on his beef cow herd. But the heart of the operation is the milk barn.
We're milking about 450 cows twice a day. We have a good herd, good genetics, good management, good production from our cattle. We have a rule on our farm that everybody milks. everybody milks. That is where we make our living. And we want everyone to be aware of what the challenges are in there. And we want everyone to get a feel for the cattle. We want them to know what cattle, or which ones are producing well, which ones are not, how the equipment is functioning. And so everyone milks on our operation.
From milking 450 dairy cows twice each day to raising crops and running feed trucks, Scott and his family have an unending list of chores. Scott always takes a regular turn on the milking crew, often starting his day in the middle of the night.
Our day starts at 2 o'clock in the morning. If you have the morning shift, 2 people come on at 2 o'clock. Everything we do on our operation is a team effort. It really is. We have 2 people milking. We try to have 2 people feeding. We have irrigating crews that go out, and we have 2 or 3 people involved in that. When we're harvesting, it's a team effort all the way. And so our whole business is built around working together as a team and helping cover each other.
Teamwork is evident on Scott's farm, and it's also an important key to his volunteer service with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, a journey that began when Scott became a director for the Wyoming Beef Council.
In 1991, I was contacted by our dairy cooperative, and they said, Wyoming Beef Council has to have a dairy representative on their board, and we're wondering if you'd be interested in serving there. The Wyoming Beef Council, by law, says that they have to have 2 cow-calf producers, 1 stocker, 1 feeder, and 1 dairyman, so that all the industry is represented. And so I took that position, not knowing what the beef checkoff did. And I have learned since then that it does tremendous work. I am so proud to be associated with it.
State beef councils collect the $1 checkoff, sending 50 cents to the Cattlemen's Beef Board for national programs and keeping 50 cents for state programs. The Federation of State Beef Councils coordinates the efforts of the 44 state beef councils, and as a dairyman, Scott has served as chairman of the Federation.
People are surprised all the time that there's a dairyman serving on the beef checkoff. But 25% of the nation's beef supply comes from the dairy industry. And so it's very appropriate that we have dairy representatives there. And that beef is not only from culled dairy cows, which is valuable, but also those bull calves are also sold and are fed out and become part of the beef supply chain.
Through the Federation, states can choose to reinvest a portion of their 50 cents back into national programs to help direct beef checkoff investments where they'll have the most impact on building beef demand.
One of the things that impresses me is how the Federation and the Beef Board work together. And the way I see that is the way the money is allocated for the national promotions. All of those things have to go through the operating committee. The operating committee is made up of 10 members from the Federation and 10 members from the Cattlemen's Beef Board. This is where the 2 halves of the dollar come back together again. And the reason it was set up that way is so that we can coordinate the activities. If on the national level we are doing advertising, the states can use that advertising and extend it within their own states. If we're doing beef safety research, for example, on the national level, the states can help disseminate that information on the state level. We have become so good together and so well coordinated. Again, this teamwork effort that I live for here on the farm, I look for harmony as I'm singing, and I look for harmony in this national checkoff program together between the states and the national programs together. I'm proud to be able to serve as a representative on the beef industry.
No doubt Scott George is enthusiastic about the work of NCBA and the efforts to wisely invest beef checkoff dollars to increase beef demand. In much the same way, he's proud to be a lifelong Wyoming dairyman, building on a strong family tradition.
I've liked the camaraderie we've had all our lives. My mother and father worked here. I worked shoulder to shoulder with them. I've worked in the fields with my father. I've milked cows in the barn with my mother. We learned to talk and communicate together. We sang together in the barn while we were milking. And now I've had that opportunity to work together with 2 of my brothers. I love what I'm doing. I like being out in the open. I like growing crops. I like working with cattle. I mean, I love it. This is a good life.
Reporting from Cody, Wyoming, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
And joining me right here in the studio is Scott George. It's sure nice to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your election as Vice President of NCBA. Why don't you tell folks just a little bit about yourself and your duties as Vice President?
Okay, I am actually a dairy farmer from Cody, Wyoming. I'm in business with 2 brothers and 4 nephews. And so it's kind of unique to be in the leadership of NCBA. But we have a well-rounded group. We have a cow-calf operator, a feeder, and now a dairyman in the leadership, and so it represents all segments of the industry. As far as my role as Vice President of NCBA, we're dealing with all the issues. Our top priority is to promote and defend beef and our modern beef production practices. That's our top priority. And NCBA is such a multifaceted organization, dealing in very, very many ways, but all of those areas complement each other, helping to move the industry and our product forward.
And tell me, what are some of the issues you're most passionate about?
Well, I'm really interested in the promotion of the beef product as a whole, but also we have to have the policy arms working there. CattleFacts recently told us that exports are adding $150 to every cow that's coming, every animal that's coming out of the feed yard. That's a great profit, but there's a great more potential opportunity there. We need our policy arm to help push Washington to open more market access so that we can even have better profitability there. That's one of my big issues. I'm also concerned about the consumer's perception of how we produce our beef today. They don't understand how careful the producers are and how they care for their animals and produce this product that the consumers are eating.
And tell me, Scott, what are some of your goals as an NCBA leader?
The cattle industry is fragmented, or has been fragmented in the past, and I would really like to see us kind of put those issues aside and work together. We need, and I don't mean any negative comments back towards anyone else in the past, but we need to work together to promote our industry. We don't need to be shooting inside the wagon at each other. We need to be working and addressing the issues that are facing us from the outside. And I would like to see that.
Well, I totally concur, and I wish you and the rest of the leadership great luck on what you're doing for the industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Join cattlemen like Scott as a member of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. It's easy to do. Call us at 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit us at beefusa.org. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Quality beef starts with quality forage. Fertilization of pastures now can help with improved quality and tonnage of late-season forages. But often applied nitrogen fertilizer can be vulnerable to volatilization, making it inefficient in robbing your herd of important nutrients. Nutrisphere N, Nitrogen Fertilizer Manager, is proven to enhance forage tonnage and quality by protecting valuable nitrogen inputs from loss. Improve your forage management plan today at NutrisphereN.com.
You take pride in the beef you raise. Countless hours invested to assure a safe and wholesome calf crop. Why trust that calf crop to just anyone? Experience the new Dinklage difference with a long history and reputation for outstanding performance and cattle care. We use a combination of cutting-edge technologies and data-driven decision-making to establish our place as leaders in the cattle feeding industry. Allow Dinklage to be a part of your team in the quest to maximize your profits. With 5 locations to serve you in Wyoming, Nebraska, and Colorado. For more information on the new Dinklage difference, stop by one of our yards or visit us on the web at dinklagefeedyards.com.
There are dozens of great things to see and do at the Cattle Industry Annual Convention and NCBA Trade Show, but one of the most popular events is always Cattlemen's College. Cattleman to Cattleman reporter Brad Bulla gives us a closer look at this event and explains why it's such a valuable learning experience for all members of the cattle industry.
It was back to school for hundreds of beef producers at the Colorado Convention Center as they took part in Cattlemen's College. The event, which is sponsored by Pfizer Animal Health, is designed to help producers assess their operations and identify ways to become more efficient while producing beef for today's consumers.
It's a great way for us to kick off the convention because it really drives to our core values, and that's figuring out ways to do better, to make better businesses, to be more sustainable, and to make sure that we have businesses that we can pass on to the next generation.
Cattlemen's College historically has been a great forum for the industry to share information with producers. So it's a producer education opportunity that helps keep them abreast of the latest technologies that they can adapt to their operations for enhanced profitability.
More than 750 cattlemen and women attended the 18th Annual Cattlemen's College, which kicked off the convention. The day-long program offered 20 sessions, and classes covered all aspects of cattle production and marketing for producers of all levels.
It's a pretty varied program, from genetics to animal health to record keeping to financial management of their operation and many other subjects that cattlemen need to know about in order to maximize their profitability.
I've come to Cattlemen's College for the last 2-3 years, and they're pretty interesting. I get a lot of valuable information from them. I like the variation in the different classes that they offer, and they're pretty educational, and you get to kind of hear the different stories from different aspects of the cattle business.
We try to provide information that's helpful to people, whether they're producing a few cows as a side income, or whether they're in the cattle business for their primary income, whether they're a cattle feeder, a cow-calf producer, a seed stock operator, a stocker operator, or even folks in the supply chain. And we're always excited to have the opportunity to interact with people, food service, retail, packing, wholesaling, and so it really is a comprehensive supply chain experience. The most important thing that we try to do in Cattlemen's College is provide a variety of sessions at variety levels of knowledge and understanding. We just go out and try to find the very best speakers we can, really bright, engaged people who are doing innovative work, and expose them to our members, and it's really magic because once you put great people together, really good education happens.
Cattlemen's College is one of the largest annually held beef producer education programs in the country, and according to the participants, it's also one of the best.
The feedback's been overwhelmingly positive, and we also quiz the producers through a survey upon departure from Cattlemen's College so that it can be improved upon from one year to the next.
You can really learn a lot, and that's why I come back. I mean, they're beneficial. If they weren't, I wouldn't come back, but they are. They're worth. It's worth the trip.
And we got just wonderful commentary from people that they love the diversity of programming. They were totally engaged with our speakers. A lot of excitement about having ideas and concepts that can be taken home and put into practice, and the fact that we provide some follow-up with full taping of the sessions so that people can go back and access those again. Of all the things I do at convention, Cattlemen's College is my favorite thing because that's where we deliver real value to people.
And it's a safe bet that these innovative and educational sessions will continue to be a highlight of the convention. Reporting from Denver, I'm Brad Bullitt for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Over the next few weeks, we'll have more highlights from Cattlemen's College. And I'd like you to consider joining us for this great educational event next year at the National Convention in Nashville, Tennessee.
These days, more cattlemen choose Draxxin to fight BRD than any other brand. Here's why.
It works. We have fewer repulls, and the ones that we do repull respond, and we have fewer chronics in the end.
To retreat anything it's a lot more expensive than using Draxxin as a first time.
And the evidence backs up what most cattlemen already know. Draxxin cuts retreats by 50%. So talk to your veterinarian and check the online calculator at Draxxin.com. You'll see why Draxxin should be your first choice to fight BRD.
Basically what it's allowed us to do with our operation is run more cattle through in a given period of time. It's just really been a good product to use.
Do not use in female dairy cattle 20 months of age or older. Do not use in calves to be processed for veal. Draxxin has a pre-slaughter withdrawal time of 18 days. Please visit Draxxin.com or call 1-888-DRAXXIN for more information.
Quality matters to me because I'm responsible for the care and preserving the health of cattle every day. Healthy cattle are the key to safe and wholesome beef. As a vet, I work hard to look out for the well-being of the cattle, no matter the time of day, no matter the weather. I'm here for the animals, and my work matters when it comes to the safety of the beef Americans eat. I'm proud of what we'll do here today.
Why is B&W's turnover ball the best-selling gooseneck hitch in the country?
Maybe it's the ingenious way it solves everyday problems. Or because it's time-tested and is rated to tow 30,000 pounds. Maybe it's because our lifetime warranty gives hard-working people peace of mind. Or maybe it's because folks love to own a hitch that's still 100% made in America. The Turnover Ball by B&W. Trusted.
So what do you care if your cattle are source and age verified? Better yet, do you think the housewife cares? Well, 70% of consumers surveyed want to know where their food comes from. So where do you start? With this little green ear tag. IMI Global is the seal of approval that stands behind the beef you produced. IMI is engaged in source and age verification from the cowman to the kitchen table. So if you're ready to start, just ask us. IMIGlobal.com. The boss told me it wasn't necessary to run these cows through a chute because Tex had assured him they were all young, sound, and guaranteed bred. Well, Tex was one of your genuine Jippo cow traders and had injected more than one load of cows into the boss when he had his back turned. Well, I called Tex and insisted we had to preg check and mouth these cows before I signed off on the deal. Well, it hurt his feelings. Implied I didn't trust him, he said. That and the fact that he didn't have any corrals anyway. Well, grudgingly, he hired a couple of sheep herders and they built a temporary holding pen out of snow fence, chicken wire, and steel posts. He rustled up some old panels and the first squeeze chute ever used by Thomas Jefferson. It had a Powder River squeeze and a Tico head gate, and it was all the same color. Rust. The first cow clomped in and I put on a plastic sleeve. "What are you doing?" he said. "Well, what do you think I'm doing, measuring her for a monocle?" "Well, they're all bred. They're guaranteed. My brother checked them and he can tell by the way the hair lays on their back." Well, the first one was open, as were the next 7. We worked for a couple hours, stopping to repair the chute twice. The cows were getting restless. The 2 sheep herders stood their ground between the chicken wire fence and the herd. They fended them off by shaking a broken plastic whip and an empty dog food bag. Well, Tex was getting mad. "Check this one out," he said as he shoved a big-horned cow into the squeeze chute. The cow hit the gate just like a mortar shell, and Dale clamped the bar down over her neck. She never slowed down. She tore the head gate off and lit out for the high country. The last time I saw her, she was going over a rise. The head gate hung on her neck like a picture frame, dragging 2 miles of chicken wire, followed by 178 head of guaranteed bred bovine, and 2 sheep herders waving a broken plastic whip and an empty dog food bag. I looked back at Tex and said, "You know, sometimes we just get lucky." This is Baxter Black from out there.
Thanks, Baxter, and we'll be right back.
Big Ben Trailers manufactures a different kind of trailer, one that's built to put up with the rough conditions found on the ranch. Rugged build using heavy-gauge powder-coated steel and a 2x4 rectangle tube frame. There's a 1-inch gap between the side and floor, so there's no place for water or manure to accumulate and rust. Big Ben trailers are loaded with standard features: a lever-action hitch, a 3-foot escape gate, and a middle sorting gate, rhino lining along the front edges, and a receiver hitch to tow another trailer, chute, or other equipment. Tough and practical. That's Big Ben Trailers. Designed and built by a working cattleman, you can rely on and trust Big Ben Trailers for their durability and convenient features. Reasonably priced for any rancher to afford. For a list of dealers and other design features, visit BigBenTrailers.com. Big Ben Trailers, built cattlemen tough.
NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. It's a television show by cattlemen for cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks for joining us.
Each week, join host Kevin Oxner for the latest in beef cattle news, market analysis, and producer education. Cattlemen won't want to miss an episode. Debuting Tuesdays at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on RFD TV or anytime at cattlementocattlemen.org.
Welcome back. Let's check out this week's legacy photos from around the country. Send us your legacy photos. Just visit us at cattlementocattlemen.org. Next week, we have tips on managing trichomoniasis in your operation. Plus, we'll learn about the Young Producers Council. And we'll spend a day in the life of a young Virginia couple building an operation. Thanks so much for joining us for this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. We'll see you right back here next week on RFD TV.